Hello to my air signs Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini. Welcome to the Pisces new moon. You'll find the timestamps for your rising signs listed below. Hello Libra Rising, welcome to your reading for the Pisces new moon, just in time, happening on this Sunday, the 10th of March at 8:02 p.m. if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me. Now, not only are we going to enjoy the potential that a new moon can bring, the seed that we might be able to sow, we're also going to be looking at a list of transits in the lead up to Aries season, because there's lots happening and there's a lot of potential conflict, potential confusion. However, if we're prepared for it, then we can find some peace and clarity as it happens. First of all, I'd like to delve into the significations of the sign Pisces for us. You're a Libra rising, so the moment that you were born, the constellation, the concept, the galaxy of Libra was rising on the eastern horizon when you took your first breath, filling up your soul's potential in this lifetime, your spirit's yearnings. That puts the constellation Pisces in your 6th house, a place where we learn rhythm, where we repeat, where we finesse, and where we act in service. I really love this for you, Libra Rising, because the sign Pisces brings with it so much emotional connection potential. The sign Pisces speaks to the way that we are all linked in some capacity, how we all have so much in common with one another, where our empathy shines through, where we cry when we need to, when we feel it all. And so for this sign to be your active service is so beautiful to me. I imagine that you put your nose to a certain grindstone, and it's got a lot to do with connecting, with linking us together, with helping us to understand how much in common we have with one another and how much our spirits are dancing together. Pisces can run into trouble sometimes. The glyph, the drawing, is 2 fish, and one is wanting to swim that way, one is wanting to swim in the other way, but they're connected by something of a silver cord. They're connected together. They're finding their rhythm, finding their current, and they're allowing for both wants, yearnings to occur at the same time. Mutable water, water being our emotional selves, mutable being a moment where we give way, where we release. There's something very sacrificial about Pisces, and you can probably recognize that in your experience, your dealings with Piscean people, is that they sometimes become so overwhelmed with their emotional capacity that they want to dissociate. They want to numb out that feeling in whichever way that they can. They want to stop it because it's too much. It's too much feeling. It's too much pain. When it's a beautiful feeling, when it's a connection of love, a connection of unity, a connection of coming together, they can't get enough. But the pain is just as mighty as the pleasure for Pisces. And so it's their job to figure out strategies, to figure out rhythms for them to stay grounded, to stay here, and to enact some sort of boundary when the going gets really tough. In tarot, the major secret that speaks to Pisces, as the Justice card speaks to you, my friend, the major secret for Pisces is the moon. You'd think that this would be a Cancer card. It's Pisces for this duality, this internal duality. There are 2 creatures here that are being urged on by the moon. They're being called to react to the moon, to howl at the moon. One of the creatures is a dog, leash trained and obedient, a good boy, ready and present and wanting love, waiting for love. The other side is a fox, wild, instinctual, cunning, street smart. And these two creatures have so much in common, as differing as their temperaments might be at times. But the moon urges them both to remember that they are animals, they are wild, they are free. This is what Pisces speaks to so sincerely, and Pisces also creates a veil of protection, a safe space for what needs to emerge from below the depths, what needs to come up, come out, and be revealed. There's a protection to the night for certain people, isn't there? We feel safeguarded by the night, by the moon. Pisces is here to connect us, but not to sacrifice themselves. And so in that definition, Libra Rising, perhaps you can see yourself in there. You can see perhaps some ways that you devote yourself to service, to rhythm, to repetition. You can see what you're doing. You can see why you're doing it. But perhaps this moment in time, this astrology, which we'll get into in a minute, this tarot card is calling you to acknowledge that you're leash trained, yes, but you're also a wild beast. And your reaction to life and its circumstance is of many colours. And there's room for both of these reactions. There's room to let your animal out and to howl sometimes. Now, in the current astrology, this card is actually being quite symbolic because the sun and the moon are both at 20 degrees of Pisces at this lunation, this moment of seed sowing. But either side, they're being flanked by Saturn, the boundary maker, the one with the rule book, the one with restriction and lessons for us, perhaps holding the leash. On the other side, we have Neptune, the magician, the glamour spell creator, the great illusionist, the wild one, the untamed one, perhaps the fox. And so these two disparate energies in the galaxy are kind of imbuing this moon with further purpose or further colour, further texture. When we think about the significations of Neptune in Pisces, we've got to remember that that's really specific to our consciousness, to our time on this planet. Neptune takes 164 years to make one trip around the zodiac, and so we never experienced the feeling of Neptune in Pisces before February of 2012. In our lifetimes, it didn't exist. And we won't experience it ever again after May of next year, or March of next year, I believe, March of 2025. I was correct. And so we've got one more year of this incredible feeling of potential, this grand magic that perhaps has been slowly peppering your active service since 2012 in the lead up to this very moment, to this very seed that you're about to sow. So I'd like you to think about that and just keep that in your back pocket. Keep the fox as one of your emblems at this new moon in Pisces. On the other side of the coin, we're dealing with Saturn in Pisces, which takes 30 years to go around the zodiac. So the last time that we had Saturn in Pisces, there was no Neptune, but it was 1993. So depending on how old you are, you can think back that far and think about what kind of acts of magical protection, magical boundary were you instilling in your personhood? What was Saturn bringing to your Piscean self, your service, your servant that would just give themselves away so freely and feel everything that you were being met with? What in 1993 set you up for this moment now? Was there something of a boundary that you had to instill in your life back then in order to safeguard you that you're being reminded of now? If you're experiencing your Saturn return as we speak, this is a moment, isn't it? It's a moment where we sort of wake up and we look at our lives to this point and we look at the lessons that we have learned and what we need to maintain in order to continue, and we take that lesson from Saturn. They will leave Pisces next year as well in May. And so there's a couple of months and then both energies will be gone from Pisces. So we're kind of being encouraged to take this moment as it stands. I love it how sometimes the astrology speaks to the tarot really, really specifically, and I think that that's just one example of right now. Now, the transits that I wanted to make mention of, they are working with Neptune. They're working in Pisces, but they are creating some sense of confusion, and there is also a major conflict to contend to with as well. So the day before this new moon, on the 9th of March, Mercury, the planet that brings with it information and messages from our stratosphere, is in hell confusion. And they have been for some weeks, because Mercury hates it in Pisces and makes everything muddy and complex and unattainable. Mercury would much prefer to be in Virgo, where they can ground and where they can achieve results and clarity. But in Pisces, it's too confusing. On the 9th of March, they're meeting up, they're conjoining with Neptune, the illusionist. So there's a wave of confusion. Perhaps it might feel really exhilarating, but it might be overwhelming and having you want to sort of find the ejector button and step off. I've made a huge mistake. I don't want to do this anymore. Go with that, hold that, allow the container of Saturn to keep your back strong. Then we switch over to the 10th of March. And so in the morning of the 10th of March, Mars and Uranus form a very abrupt, tight square. And so Mars can be aggression, Uranus can be rebellion. And so what we're going to hold hands with is this moment on the 10th, before the new moon. We're going to witness the atrocities. We're going to witness whatever emerges. It might not be so personal in your life. It might be something that you experience as a part of the human species, the greater collective. If we do look specifically to your birth chart, Libra Rising, we're talking about friction and conflict between your 5th house of your creative self-expression, your vitality, your artistry, your pleasure house, and your house of bonds, commitment, grief, collaboration. So there's Uranus is in that place for you at present, and Mars is fighting words. So I wonder if there's some fighting words that you need to contend with in relationship to the way that you're expressing yourself, and indeed those familial bonds or those commitments that we've made in this life, these soul contracts perhaps, the way that our energy, our investment is intertwined in the investment of another, our house that brings with it grief, where we learn to say goodbye. Then Mercury frees themselves of the shackles of Pisces from drowning. They enter into Aries. So there's a conviction there. There's a dry match that's been found with this moment. There's some clarity, finally. On your birth chart, Aries is your 7th house, which is your relationships, the people that are near and dear to you, your loved ones. And so there might be some clearer information that we can work with as we enter into this seed sowing moment with the Pisces new moon. On the 12th of March, Venus enters Pisces. And so Venus is bringing with it some beauty, some optimism, some hope, some nurturing, some pleasure to your daily grind, to your rhythms. There might be a wave of like re-inspiration that might happen for you here, which we can look forward to and possibly hold on to for the next 3 weeks in company with Venus. On the 17th of March, the Sun puts a spotlight on Neptune, the grand illusionist, this part of your life that's been playing out since February of 2012. This magic maker, yes, but where is the delusion here? Where is Saturn really urging you to maintain that boundary as you move forward? Then we enter Aries season on the 20th, and then the day after that, Mercury meets up with Chiron, the wounded healer, in your 7th house of your relationships, urging with some clarity to unearth and to tend to this wounding that we're working with this year in your relationships. Then we enter into eclipse season. It's a lot. I'll save some of this for the next horoscope as we prepare for the Libra lunar eclipse, but I will remind us all that our minds will be cast back to the last Libra eclipse, which occurred in October of last year. And so we hold that moment with clarity, and we hold that moment with sanctity as we move forward. The injustice that we've been speaking about since that time is going to come into focus again, and we're going to work together to rectify, to use our voices, to shed what we needn't have on our backs. Remember, the eclipse will be happening in your first house, your house of your soul's rising intention. More to be shed, more layers to fall away as you stand in your truth and your honesty, your dignity, your power. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps. It's a lot, it's a lot, it's a lot. But we're here and we're moving through it, Libra Rising. I'm going to get you some tarot just to see what else needs to emerge at this time for you. I would remind you that as frustrating and as laborious as Pisces can sometimes feel, there is some majesty there. There is some beautiful magic and some hope there too. So let's just ruminate and meditate on our lives since February of 2012 and all of the magic that we've been able to make manifest and hang on to as our guiding principles in our work, in our service. Because I can see this preparation and there's this feeling of working together that I think is really going to hold you in steady company. I feel the lovely kind of shape and regularity of a triangle, two at the base, one at the top there. The pentacles speak to a grounded sense of reality, of earthiness and of growth as well. And the Three of Pentacles does speak about collaborative effort. So as we kind of are gathering our group, perhaps gathering our collaborators in this moment, ready to face the astrology to come, there's going to be some real sharp barbs of truth, and there's going to be some urgency to our words. And so we're going to find the rhythm with that. The knight is unafraid to call a spade a spade. Sometimes they can be incredibly clunky with their delivery. They mean really well, and from their perspective, they're on the right side of history. They're leading the charge with this voice. However, there's a real rush and a flood of this information. It might even be echoing this feeling of Mercury into Aries, into your 7th house. So be mindful of that. Remember the tension that we've been working with and building up to in your intimate relationships as well. Then we're going to find this equilibrium. We're going to find this moment where our fire, where our drive, where our magic is sewn into and folded with and alchemized with our emotional understanding, our emotional ecosystem. We're going to feel it in our body, and the fire in our body can sometimes want to lash out and sort of unearth itself from all orifice. But the water is there to sort of cool it and to calm it. Temperance doesn't say do one or the other. Temperance actually tells us that we can do both, but it's about precision. It's about precision with intent, which sometimes the Knight of Swords has a more difficult time with, is that precision. But life is a collaborative effort. So we take everyone's offerings and we work with that, and we help everyone work to their strengths. Much love to you, Libra Rising. I hope that made sense, and I hope that you of all people can feel prepared as we enter into eclipse season, because I know that they do pack a punch. And when it comes to your first house, when it comes to your sense of self and this urgency this command for you to release some of these layers that can be really confronting, especially for one so involved with equilibrium, with peace. If we think about Venus as your guiding light to Libra Rising, you can use that as a talisman for yourself in your work, in your active service. Know that Venus is guiding your way, so use this moment, use these 3 weeks from the 12th of March to lock into that as a blessing. Much love to you, Libra Rising. If you're still here with me, can you please put a mermaid in the comments? That would be awesome, in honor of Pisces and all that they represent to us. If you'd like me to read your birth chart, I'll draw you one. They look like that. And you can make an appointment with me on Zoom via my website at umaruby.com. If I have read for you before and you'd like to see me again, choose a truth, love, growth, magic, or femme reading over at my website too. And we'll look at the current transits as they relate to your chart, and we'll draw from tarot together and try and find some answers that we need. Much love to you. You can support my work at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby, and you can subscribe for 10 Australian dollars a month there too. I'll be with you in good preparation for the upcoming Libra eclipse, so never fear, tune in, and from time to time, allow yourself to drop out, as Pisces would encourage you. Peace. I love you. Hello, Aquarius. Hello, Aquarius Rising. Welcome to your reading for the Pisces new moon, happening very soon on Sunday, the 10th of March at 8:02 p.m. if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me. Don't fret, we've got plenty of time to get it sorted. What I've got for you as well is a list of transits that occur after this new moon into Aries season. We're stepping into a very pivotal moment in the astrological weather, so I wanted to be as specific as I was able with these transits without overwhelming you with too much astro gobbledygook. But let's be clear. On the 10th of March, this Sunday in the evening, is our moment of seed sowing. This is our moment of potential Aquarius rising, where you get to look at your second house. You get to look at your values, your resources, and what you do with them moving forward. We get to think about how your independence is maintained and how you can take care of yourself in this life moving forward. That's the moon. But let's expand and let's look around the other astrology that's occurring at this time. So Pisces, which is the season that we're in now, is all about feeling. It's all about intuition and caring for one another. It's about magic sometimes too. If we think about the journey of the zodiac and how it begins in Aries and culminates in Pisces, there's almost something about a giving over completely, a relinquishment of control. Sometimes it can be self-sacrifice, which we must be mindful of, because as much as that's an impulse of the Piscean self, we must remember that our safety and our lives are here and now and valid for a purpose. I love you, Aquarius Rising, and it's really beautiful to see all of this beautiful empathy in your second house, the part of you that does speak to your resources, your values, what you do value in this life, which, looking at this, speaks a lot to connection. It does speak a lot to empathy and to kindness and to love and to a feeling of sort of connection in a really grand sense. Intellectually, you know this in your Aquarian self. Your Aquarius mind is all over that, the strategies of which how we can figure out social structures and have equity, you know. But your Piscean nature is also prevalent in your chart. Remember that every single sign has a part to play in our makeup. We're not one or the other or a couple. We are everything. And so when the time hits, when the moon hits these moments, it's when we speak about it. So you are a Pisces. There is Piscean attributes to you, Aquarius Rising, as much as you might try and stifle them from time to time, and as much as they can give you the shits often. Pisces is so available until they're not, and then you'll never see them again. So this is one thing to think about in our emotional ecosystem when it comes to this lesson of emotions, this lesson of connectivity. Sometimes the reality of connectivity can become too much for Pisces as well, and they wish to disappear. In the tarot, the major secret that speaks to Pisces, as you are the star, Pisces is the moon. The glyph of Pisces is two fish, one wanting to swim that way, one wanting to swim that way, but bound by a silver cord, a thread that holds them together, that makes them connected. In the tarot, we look at the moon and we recognize that there is two species in this card. There is a leash-trained, obedient dog, and there's also a wild, cunning fox. But both are canines, and both are urged to react to the presence of the moon in their natural instinct. It's a card of binding together our differences. It's a card of recognizing that species across the globe for millennia have responded and reacted to the moon and imbued it with their own sense of worship, their own sense of spirituality, their own sense of healing too and release. The moon is a sacred emblem in countless cultures across the globe, and there's something unifying about the way that its effects interfere with our physiology. That's something to sit with at this time. What I love about this moment, this current moment of astrology, is that this card is speaking really clearly to what is happening to the sun and the moon at this lunation. So on the 10th of March at 20 degrees, they will join up in Pisces, allowing that moment to sow your seeds about your values, your resourcefulness. But they're being flanked by two disparate feelings. One is Saturn, the planet that brings with it boundary and container, one of the planets that really helps you through and guides you along in this life. This idea of rules and systems is what we feel with Saturn. And so you can maybe see Saturn holding the leash of that dog. On the other side of Pisces, we have Neptune, the modern ruler of Pisces, the planet that does bring with it mystery and the unknown, excitement of the unknown, illusion. This could be the instinctual nature of the fox. This could be something wilder. Neptune's very wild, untamed. Think about the ocean. Think about Pisces as the ocean and Neptune as the lord of the ocean. There's a lot here of a magic that is sort of indescribable, but unstable. And so this lunation is being called to by both of these planets. There's the fox, there's the dog. Which road will you take? You contain oceans, Aquarius. You contain all of this. But is there a risk that you're about to take? Or is there a risk that you are, with boundary, denying at this time? Have you decided that your resources are not safe to be used in this way, or you are not willing to engage in this collaboration at this time? That could be something. We shall see. If it's confusing, we can blame Mercury for that. For the last several weeks, Mercury has been in Pisces, creating all manner of confusion in regard to your resources, what you're going to do with them moving forward, how you're going to make this part of your life work for you. Mercury is much more comfortable in Virgo, and so in the opposite sign, it creates a cloud. It creates something that feels really unstable, sort of like choppy water. That's a good image to work with. The day before this new moon, this lunation, Mercury will join up with Neptune. So you can just imagine the confusion that might bring with it. So this is Saturday. But then Mercury will leave Pisces and enter into Aries, drier ground, where they can dry off their matchbook and find the right one to strike. So hold up before making any huge decisions. Also, let's contend with a massive point of friction as well. So Mars in your first house, that sword and shield, that bravery, has come into exact square, exact face-off with Uranus, the rebel, in your fourth house, your roots, your home, your privacy. Where do you call home? What does that look like? How are we revolutionizing this space for you? How are we digging up the dead roots and providing fresh soil to plant some new ones? However, feel that square, feel that pressure. What words are being said? What aggression are you feeling in regard to this? How is this going to shape you moving forward? And your resources. But also think about the idea that this is a sort of maybe a global experience too. So there might be something that calls on us to restabilize right before this new moon. In the evening, we have the new moon. We have that potential to sow the seed. 2 days after, on the 12th of March, Venus enters the scene in Pisces. Venus is brilliant in Pisces. Venus works really beautifully and productively in Pisces. Venus brings the creation, the artist, inspires the hand of the creator, I should say. That feels really nice to me, and we've got that for 3 weeks to look forward to as the mania ensues. So Venus in Pisces from the 12th, on the 17th of March, the sun itself joins up with Neptune, puts a spotlight on perhaps some of these places where you may have been deluding yourself about your resources, about your investments, what you are going to commit to. Also, it might be a spotlight on your gut instinct, your nous, and perhaps these risks you'll know by then, by the 17th, whether they're ready to take or not. On the 20th of March, the sun enters Aries. We begin the new zodiac year. We start afresh in Aries. If New Year's didn't work for you, fine. If the Lunar New Year didn't work for you, also fine. This is another talisman of beginning again, starting again. Then, the day after, on the 21st of March, Mercury meets up with Chiron, the wounded healer of the zodiac, the one that is urging us to find our pain points. For you, Aquarius Rising, this is all happening in your third house of the goddess, your village. So this feeling of displacement might be bringing further focus to strategy on how to heal this. As we step into eclipse season, these are the areas of focus. The areas of focus of your life are your village, your house of the goddess, and your ability to travel and move around and make grand pilgrimage in Libra, your house of the gods. And so there's a shedding in Libra that we're about to experience with the lunar eclipse on the 25th of March. That's going to bring our attention back to October of last year as well. So it's kind of a really imperative time to be a Pisces and hold hands with each other, move through this astrology together, make sure that everyone has what they need, including you, my friend. Because if you go without in service of somebody else or, another energy, if you're in a space of lack because you've given everything away, that's not going to help you. And that's when this choppy water of Pisces will get deeper and deeper. So use that boundary of Saturn, that magical ring. Can you feel it? I can really feel it. I've been having such a wild time, and I've been swimming that way and this way. And I'm relying on Saturn at this time to re-maintain or set the boundaries, because so much empathy, so much feelings, and those feelings can be disparate too. That can be a great feeling of love and connection, and also be fear and pain on behalf of, you understand? And so we protect ourselves from that, but that doesn't mean that we disengage. Okay, so what looked like a seed, what looked like something really grounded in potential, a really healthy soil that allowed growth, has now got you feeling a bit blindsided. It has you feeling unstable in some way. It has you feeling that there was probably more work that you weren't counting on that has come up. There's more to this. This isn't to say to throw it all in the bin, but this is just to sort of name this current moment, Aquarius Rising, that it doesn't look as smooth sailing as perhaps you thought that it did before. What we're moving towards is a lovely feeling of fire and of spark, but we've got to check ourselves again to see how long that will last, because we want this growth for you. All of this focus and these conversations and these revolutions around your root system, around your fourth house, that have you think about your ancestors, think about where it is that you will ground yourself, where it is that you will call home. We need something substantial to see that through. You have that potential to sustain with these two Pentacles cards. However, moving forward, we're back in fire. We're back in fire with someone who I would definitely trust. However, we've got to see if they trust themselves with what they're creating, what magic it is they're creating. Because if they're irresponsible with that, then it's going to burn up really quickly. We can maintain fire. When I think about the element of fire, I always think about fire maintained. When we come to Sagittarius, I always think about candles, an altar of candles, something that is beyond a magic trick or beyond a spark, but something that can be respected and maintained, and the beauty of the fire that can then be enjoyed. I think about a sort of crackling fire in the hearth in the home. That's what I want for you when thinking about your fourth house, thinking about your roots, thinking about this rebellion. I hope that it's rebellion in order to find some place warm for you to land, somewhere that will provide you with privacy enough to be vulnerable, Aquarius Rising. This isn't to say that this seed isn't growing, but I'm just registering the moment where it does feel really out of whack and really imbalanced. So focus back to Pisces. Focus back to your resources, your seed bag, your coin purse. What can you imbue that area of your life with some wishes, with some hopes, with some ritual at this new moon in Pisces? And how can that benefit you in this yearning for growth moving forward? I want growth for you too. We don't need wings and prayers at this time, I don't think, Aquarius Rising. We need substance. We need reliability. We need commitment. So best of luck to you. If you're still here with me, can you please put a mermaid in the comments? That would be awesome, in honor of Pisces and all of their fluidity and all of their majesty. I can draw your birth chart. They look like that. You can head to umaruby.com and make an appointment with me. If it's your first time, choose the spirit reading. That includes the drawing. If I have read for you before and you'd like another journey with your astrology and with the tarot, you can choose a truth, a growth, a magic, a love, or a femme reading. You can make that booking at Uma Ruby too, and we'll look at the current transits and how they're affecting your astrology, and also we'll pull tarot together and find the answers. Yeah. You can support my work at buymeacoffee.com, and you can subscribe there for $10 a month if you have the budget to do so. I'll be with you very soon in good preparation for eclipse season. It's imminent. We're thinking Aries, we're thinking Libra. So let's work with it together. Let's work with this disparity between the house of the goddess and the house of the gods. Much love. Hello Gemini Rising, welcome to your reading for the Pisces new moon, which is happening very soon on Sunday the 10th of March at 8:02 p.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. So we're got messages for that, but there's some great seeds of potential that we can plant here with this new moon, Gemini rising. I also have written a very concise list of all of the transits that are going to occur between then and Aries season, because we're kind of gearing up to enter into the season of eclipses, and there's so much astrology in the prelude to that, which is pretty effective, pretty powerful. So I want to make sure that you feel kind of prepared enough for it. Maybe if you've got your diary, you can just make notes of these dates and just write down little keywords as we have this conversation. First things first, we're in Pisces season right now, and we're enjoying all of the connective potential that Pisces has to offer. We're also feeling incredibly overwhelmed with the weight of the pain that is occurring right now. Pisces, the sign, is mutable water, like you are mutable air, Gemini rising. And on that topic, I'd like to discuss a little bit further the idea that we are every sign in the zodiac. Just because you're a Gemini rising doesn't discount any of the other signs. And as the moon travels its journey around every single sign of the zodiac, every month, we get to remark upon each different sign, their strengths, their room for growth, and we get to identify ourselves with that too. On your birth chart, where there's planets, there's focus. But that isn't to say that you aren't a Pisces. When you were born, Gemini was rising on the eastern horizon, imbuing your soul with its purpose. By the time we get to Pisces, we have your 10th house, your most public-facing self, your career, your legacy, what folks will remember you by. So here is a place where our magic comes into action. Here is a place where our enormous empathy comes into bright focus, comes into clarity, and comes into some place where we can speak to it and we feel that we are mastering this part of ourselves. Mutable water looks to me like the ocean of feeling. It looks like the limitless depths that we can plunge together and find how we are connected, feel what another person is feeling, think what another person is thinking too, speak with things other than language, other than words. We can connect in Pisces in that way, through our goosebumps, through our heartbreak, through our excitement. These are all things that Pisces is so good at. Pisces is so good at bringing everyone together and recognizing that we are all the same. There can be something pretty sacrificial in Pisces, which we must sort of resist, because that isn't our job to sacrifice ourselves here. We give of ourselves, and we can acknowledge that that takes a lot from us. And then we know that we are entitled to receive back as well, to fill up our tank again. Pisces cares so much. Pisces can also be overwhelmed by the feeling. They have so much of it that they long to dissociate and to stop it from happening. This is why sometimes Pisces can go into all manner of different realms of self-soothing to try and numb out the feeling, to try and stop the feeling. It's our job here to register the feeling and to find strategies to work with the feeling. So this is all in your 10th house, your most public-facing self, your career. There's something really intuitive about that world for you, Gemini rising. There's something that's really going to hold you in good stead if you can master your ability to feel and to empathize, and also at this current moment in time, enact a healthy boundary around that. Something that will protect your energy in order for you to continue to give at the level in which you do. Now I'll explain something to you. In the major secrets of the tarot, you are the lovers. This is the Gemini soul card. The Pisces one is the moon. And there's a split here. There's a pictorial on duality. There's also a pictorial on the same species. So there's two creatures here that are baying to the brightness and the wonder of the full moon. They're being urged to follow that full moon and to speak in reverence towards it. I always think a howl is a prayer whenever I hear one. It's a really, really lovely thing to be around. You know how sometimes a dog can't resist the urge to howl at the moon. One of these creatures is a dog, leash trained, obedient, dutiful. The other creature is a fox, cunning, wild, streetwise. Both are canines though, both are related. Pisces knows that. Pisces knows that we are connected. As disparate as the human condition can feel at this time, across centuries, what we need to remember and hold on to in our hearts and our minds is that every life is valid. And so this is what Pisces yearns for. And this image is speaking to this emergence of feeling. You can see there's something emerging in the water at the bottom of this card, coming up without control by the light of the moon, is beckoning it forward. Pisces, the glyph is two fish. One wants to swim that way, one wants to swim that way, one wants to go the way of the dog, one wants to go the way of the fox. And there can be a complete tension in that double nature. However, you, in your Gemini-ness, know that all too well, and you can work with that split. You can be kind to the Pisces parts of you because you recognize that duality. In the current sky astrology at this new moon, the sun and the moon are flanked by Saturn, who speaks to restriction and boundary and rehearsal and repetition and test, who I see in this moment holding the leash of the dog. On the other side, we have Neptune, the illusionist, the lord of the sea, the master of creation and magic. I see that as the fox, wild, untamed, unpredictable. This lunation, this seed that you're about to sow at this new moon in Pisces, Gemini Rising, is going to be working with both of these energies, both of this split. And it'll be up to you to take the information and the encouragement from both, and to not get stuck or slip into a stream too far either side. The thing about Neptune and our era is that this time is very specific. Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces, which means it's the planet that gives great help and support to Pisces. You can see that connection to Pisces, the ocean, Neptune, the lord of the ocean, the magic that can be made by following our intuitive animal instinct. However, Neptune takes 164 years to go around the zodiac. And so in our lives, we've never experienced Neptune in Pisces before February of 2012. And then we did. And from February of 2012, all the way up until this moment, we've been experiencing the sort of bass note, the rhythm of Neptune in Pisces. We've been feeling our magic build. We've been feeling the possibility of creating with that kind of guardian. Neptune is going to leave Pisces next year in May of 2025, and from March of 2025, I should say. And then we won't know Neptune in Pisces ever again in our life. So what I'd like for you to do is meditate on the period of February 2012 to right now, and then moving forward for the next year. How can we make this Neptune in Pisces count for us in your public-facing self, your career, your legacy? This isn't to say that we can't look to Neptune for guidance, but I'd just like to remark on the profundity of this era, of being alive with Neptune in Pisces. It's pretty powerful. And so in that way, I'd like for you to remember the magical parts of you and hold them in more reverence than some might like you to. On the other side of the scale, the one holding the leash is Saturn. Now, Saturn takes 30 years to go around the zodiac. The last time that Saturn was in Pisces was in 1993. And so think about the boundary, think about that ring of salt, that container, and that urgency to practice. You're being called to rehearse with Saturn in Pisces. If you have memory of 1993, I wonder what stories you could tell about needing to enact a magical boundary in your life. And I wonder what you can tell me about March of last year up till now, about what magical boundaries you've set in place in order to maintain your work. As we move along, May of next year, Saturn will leave Pisces. And so there'll be a sort of feeling of reprieve and release in the chart, the part of our chart that has Pisces. However, it's up to us right now to take those lessons. And maybe if we take the moment with this new moon and both the fox and the dog, and remember that both are included, both are invited in our nature, and we thank them for the obedience, and we thank them for the instinct too. So that's the moon card. The day before this new moon, Gemini Rising, Mercury is going to be meeting up with the fox, meeting up with Neptune. And so there's going to be possibly a real feeling of absolute confusion, because we know that Mercury, the messenger, is very uncomfortable in Pisces, would much prefer to ground in Virgo, in the opposite sign. And so go with that feeling of what feels like urgency. Maybe try and resist it at this moment. The next day, on the 10th of March, at the top of the day, we have a very harsh square between Mars and Uranus. We have violence against revolution. We have harsh words and actions against rebelling from the system. And so on your chart, we're looking to your 12th house, which is your unconscious world. We're looking to your hidden realms, where the revolution has already begun. And we're also then looking over to your house of pre-existing organized structures of religious knowledge and philosophy. And so there's something that feels like harshness attacking something very private. Both are pushing and pulling. There's something that is written in the scripture. There is something that you know in your body intuitively that is being harsh with one another. You might not feel this moment so personally. This might be something that we expand our perception and we look around and we see this conflict between Uranus and Mars. We see this friction. And so we do our best to maintain as we work through that. Then the new moon happens. Then we plant our seed. On the 12th of March, Venus enters Pisces. Venus brings with it inspiration in your 10th house, beauty, pleasure. Then on the 17th of March, the sun meets up with Neptune, with the fox. There's a spotlight on your intuition, on your magic. Then we enter Aries season on the 20th of March. And the day after, on the 21st of March, Mercury meets up with Chiron, the wounded healer, in your 11th house of your sense of belonging in humanity, your friends, your colleagues, your good spirit. The pain that we see existing there, this difficulty for you to find a safe space to land and to feel a part of something, to not feel ostracized, is pulling itself into focus. And we know that as we enter into eclipse season, these are the areas of major focus for you. We're going to heal Gemini Rising. We're going to look at these feelings of not belonging. We're going to protect ourselves from the outside world if they wish to harm us. We're going to hold true with what Mercury has now ascertained as to the truth of the matter, the fact, and we're going to hold that in our back pocket too. We're not going to be pulled this way or that way. we're going to be convinced, and then we're going to prepare to shed during the eclipses. I hope all of that makes sense to you. I know that that was a big list, but I wanted to get specific because it does feel really tense. And I imagine wave after wave after wave of empathy or of fear or of pain has your system in a space where it's like, you know what, I actually can't take anymore. I'm with the friggin' fox, but I'm like out of here. Or like, take me to the river, take me to the depths, I'm done. You know, stay with us, babe, stay with us. We need everyone together, we need everyone holding hands, because we're not frightened of this astrology, but it does provide our current moment with a bit of context, and we can think about it in terms of that beautiful mirror that you long for. Gemini is the mirror, bouncing love and light back and forth, finding solace in the reflection of the other, finding a place to live, a place to land. You feel so much, Gemini. You think so much too. Can maybe learn a little bit from Pisces in that way of that thought can also be felt in the body too. And so if there's room for empathy on all sides, all facets, then please let it in. Yeah, I see that we're edging towards this feeling of being absolutely trapped. And we've been working with this for a while. So I want you to remember that in moments where you do feel trapped by circumstance or truth or otherwise, when you feel completely powerless, remember that there is a clearing. There is a moment for you, Gemini, to see again. It's just a matter of strategy and maneuvering to cut off some of the ties that bind you in order to keep going and move forward. If we're thinking specifically about your career is a life's work, and no one is defined by their career. That's a hard thing to say in a culture that has us all working and hanging all of our worth on our productivity. That can be really overwhelming, speaking of Pisces. But I want you to remember that there's space and room for every chapter of your life. Right now it feels pretty hectic. It feels like there's some great potential as well. It feels like there's some things cooking, but I don't want you to feel off kilter at this time, because if you can remember that when you need support, you're entitled to it, in the same way that whenever anybody else needs support, you give, then hopefully that will help you come back into some sense of balance and ask for some help, so we can so we can live in the moment of this anxiety and think of practical strategies to help you through. There's so much potential for healing coming up. There's also a lot of instability and a lot of aggression consistently. So let's work with all of that as best we can, Gemini Rising, to keep you fresh, to keep you present, to keep you here. I'd love to hear about what magic you are creating in your career, in your public-facing self. I'd love to hear about how you believe in your magic too. So if you're still here with me, can you please put a mermaid in the comments in honor of Pisces and all of their beautiful magic? If you'd like me to read your birth chart, head to umaruby.com and I'll draw you one. They look like that, and I can guide you through your astrology and your tarot that's been with you since birth. If I have read for you before and you'd like to see me again, head to my website and you can choose a truth, love, growth, magic, or femme reading. And I'll describe to you the current transits as they relate to your chart, and we'll pull some tarot together. This is a big moment, Gemini Rising, and I hope that that wasn't too much information. I imagine, though, you've got access to the pause button, and just write those dates down and whatever keywords come to mind, because it's tense and we're all feeling it really sincerely. And Pisces is the sign that teaches us, when in overwhelm, wiggle your big toe. You're still here. We love you. Can't wait to spend more time with you. You can support my work at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. You can subscribe for $10 Australian a month. I will be with you in good time and good preparation to enter into eclipse season. I've got your back, my darling, and we're going to be looking at your sense of belonging and your sense of self-expression, and we're going to allow what needs to be released, and what's coming to arrive. Your people are on the way.